What's up nutrition nerds, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at some nutrition tips for a sprint triathlon. Now if your race calendar is anything like mine, then unfortunately you've probably had a lot of races cancelled. But there are still some events going on, so if you're lucky enough to be racing, then you can use these tips for those, and if not, you've got them ready for next season. Now I'm also going to include a tip for those who are looking to push things as fast as they can, because even if you're already going super fast, perhaps even trying to break the hour mark, there's some nutritional wizardry that we can use to make it more likely. Although a sprint triathlon is relatively short in comparison to the other distance events, it doesn't mean that there isn't anything that you can do nutritionally to make you perform better. So let's separate it out into tips before and then during your race to help you go faster. So to start off with, in the days before your race, you want to make sure you're eating plenty of carbohydrates. If you haven't already watched my video on carbs, I suggest you do, but the basic premise is that as we work harder, we use more carbohydrates. So unless you're planning on doing some sightseeing en route, which sounds pretty nice actually, you're going to be working hard during a sprint triathlon, basically as hard as you can for the whole thing. So you're going to need carbohydrates for your race, and your best bet of having a full store of them is to eat well in the 2 or 3 days beforehand. Yep, this is your confirmation that you can eat loads of those delicious carbs coming into your race, and it's in your best interest, really. So this is what people are talking about when they mention carb loading. The current research suggests that you eat somewhere around 10 grams per kilogram of body weight of carbohydrates in the 24 to 36 hours before a race. This maximizes what we call glycogen loading, basically storing up as many carbohydrates to use in exercise as possible. We only have enough carbohydrates for about 90 minutes of hard exercise, so we want to make sure we've got that covered. And handily, that's about the right amount to get you through a sprint triathlon. Now if you don't know what 10 grams per kilogram of body weight in carbohydrates is in real terms, I don't blame you. And if you're surprised by what it looks like, I don't blame you either. It's a lot. I'll put an example in the description of what a 10 gram per kilogram of body weight of carbs looks like for a 70 kilogram athlete, and then you can use that and scale it up or down. Now the question of course is, do you need to be carb loading for a sprint triathlon? And in part the answer depends on your goal time. If you think it's going to be 90 minutes plus, then carbohydrate loading makes sense. But if your goal time is around the hour mark, then do you specifically need to carb load? It's likely that it's not going to be as important, but realistically, are you going to make things worse if you do? The answer there is no. Unless you have a medical reason not to, such as diabetes, and in which case get a one-on-one with a nutritional professional or your doctor, you're not going to do any harm from loading fully, and you can be safe in the knowledge that if you do, you'll be in peak nutritional shape going into the race. I'm going to do a proper video on carbohydrate loading in the future, so this is just a brief overview of it. If you can't hold out until that video and you've got a burning question, then just let me know in the comments. And we covered what to eat before a race in the last video, so if you haven't already, go and give that a watch. Now another part of the pre-race nutrition puzzle is hydration. I'm only going to mention that briefly in this video because I want to do it justice and talk about it properly in another one. The reason I want to do that is because there are issues like overhydration and it can get a bit complex, so I'm not going to give specific advice here in such a short segment. It isn't as much of an issue for a sprint triathlon because of the distance, but it obviously still plays a part. For now, all I'll say is just keep your hydration in mind and drink well in the days coming into a race. So now for the really interesting part. Is there anything that you can do during a sprint triathlon nutritionally to improve your performance? So there is, and that's for both those who are trying to break an hour and for those who are just completing their first triathlon. If your goal time is 90 minutes plus, then I would recommend consuming a carbohydrate source during your race. You can use whatever works best for you, so that might be a bar, gel, chewy or drink, but I would definitely recommend trialing it in advance and practicing with it. If you're using a glucose only supplement, you can have about 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. But if you're using a glucose-fructose combination, you can have up to about 90 grams an hour. Whatever it is that you go for, if it's a sport nutrition supplement, it should say on it what carbohydrate source it is and how much it contains. Now the easiest place to get those carbs in would be on the bike. If you want, you could have a gel at the start of the run, but you probably shouldn't need this. But if it makes you feel better and you don't get any tummy upset, then that's fine. By the way, I'm going over different race supplements and tips in the video next week. So if you want to know about the different carbohydrate supplements that are in use, then just click the subscribe button to get notified when I release it. Okay, so what if your goal time is under 90 minutes, or perhaps even if you're looking to break an hour and win the whole thing? What can you do to improve your performance? So there does seem to be a way that you can improve your performance, and it's not necessarily to do with your carbohydrate stores, but to do with your perception of fatigue. There's been research into fatigue and ways of preventing it, and it seems like something as simple as a carbohydrate mouth rinse. So basically a carbohydrate drink that you don't actually drink, you just swill it around your mouth, is enough to improve performance. So this means that even if you don't feel you need any form of energy or hydration during a sprint triathlon, and from a nutritional point of view, if you're well topped up going into the race, you shouldn't actually need it, your body and brain seem to perform better and resist fatigue with some sort of stimulus. So next time you race a sprint, it might actually be worth putting that bottle on your bike, or my favourite option, a drink ready for T2. You can take a big sip before you leave transition, swill it around your mouth and spit it out as you exit transition, and still get the benefit from it. And best of all, you don't risk any gastro upset on the run. COVID safety warning, by the way, don't spit it out when you're near anyone, they will not like that. So that's it for today. I hope you found it useful and I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear any comments or thoughts you had, so just let me know. And if you did find it useful, then just give the video a like and press subscribe. Share it with your friends as well, unless you're racing one of them soon and you want to make sure that you beat them. Next week, I'm going to go over the 2 carbohydrate powerhouses in sports supplements for racing. So if you're after racing tips that can be used for any distance, then make sure you give it a watch. And if you're racing, have fun and let me know how you get on. See ya!